All right now we want to turn to some breaking news unfolding in New York City right now. These are pictures from the Hudson River. A small plane has crashed there. It happened at about 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Specifically, this plane is a World War II vintage P-47 Thunderbolt aircraft. Now, the FAA did release a statement. It said that it received a report about this vintage aircraft going down in the Hudson River about 2 miles south of the George Washington Bridge. The FAA then notified the NYPD Aviation Unit and also the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. You can see that there are a lot of rescue boats there on the river. That's search and rescue that are now on the scene. Right now you can see that this is a very active situation. This is more on the New Jersey side of the Hudson River. For those of you that may be unfamiliar with the geography, the Hudson River separates the New Jersey and New York City coastlines, and literally you can see the New Jersey and New York skylines on either side of the river. It's a very short boat ride from one side to the next. And this is also the very same area which you may have heard for this story back in 2009 when a U.S. Airways flight 1549 being the captain of that flight, Chesley Sully Sullenberger, went down in the Hudson. That news story termed the Miracle on the Hudson. Here you can see some of those rescue boats, the NYPD rescue boats, also the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. They're on the scene. From these pictures, I do not see the small aircraft. We also do not know at this time how many people were on board that aircraft. A little bit of background about some current events that are happening here, because you're probably asking yourself, why is a World War II vintage plane flying in the airspace around New York City? Well, it is Memorial Day, and Memorial Day always marks Fleet Week. That is when the Navy and the Coast Guard and other military personnel all descend on New York City. They sail their ships into the harbor and they spend a week here. That may have been part of this group. There is also an air show that is taking place at Jones Beach on Long Island. That aircraft may have also been playing a part in that. We do not have that confirmed, but those are some possible reasons of why this aircraft may have been in the New York City airspace. But once again, a small plane, a vintage World War II P-47 Thunderbolt aircraft, reports to the FAA that plane went down in the Hudson River south of the George Washington Bridge, more on the New Jersey side. These are pictures taken from a chopper over the scene. You can see rescue personnel have all descended there to check out the situation. We do not see the aircraft in these pictures, but we can tell you that all of the personnel within the New York NYPD and also the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey are all there on scene,
right, we're good
figuring out the situation. I can hear the chopper pilot there. I don't think that he was giving out any information. We're getting these pictures here from our affiliate here in New York City, WCBS. You can see the Coast Guard there on the scene, NYPD boats, and also the Port Authority boats. This is a very familiar scene for all of us that witnessed that crash on the Hudson in 2009. That is now dubbed the Miracle on the Hudson. We saw all of the boats.
Hey, Steve, the initial information we've received,
just listening
around
in
7:30,
to Joe
a lot
Bierman,
of 911 calls reporting a small plane crash down in the Hudson River over on the New Jersey side. The Jersey side would put it about West New York. The New York side, the Manhattan side, would put it just north of the 79th Street boat basin. What you're looking at there, that's all the NYPD emergency equipment that has responded. Fire boats, police helicopters, a lot of fire trucks both on the Jersey Shore and the Manhattan side. Now the aircraft is reportedly a P-46 Thunderbolt, which is a vintage, say, World War II airplane, similar to a Mustang that you might be familiar with. Now the FAA website, we're being told, says the P-46 Thunderbolt is a single passenger, single pilot aircraft. So at this point, as you can see, there is no sign of the aircraft. It is completely submerged in the Hudson River. That building right at the bottom of your screen, everybody in West New York knows it as the Roundhouse. It's the big round apartment building. It's right by the hospital there along the Hudson River in West New York. No signs of an oil slick yet. No word of them recovering the pilot, but a massive search is underway. Back to you, Steve.
All right, there we heard our affiliate helicopter on the scene in New York City, WCBS. That was Joe Bierman reporting, and he was reiterating the reports that the FAA did receive. This here is from a tweet from J. Peter Donald, a spokesperson with one of the authorities here in New York City, that shows where the plane is believed to be. You can see the arrow there. We heard that that plane is submerged under the river. That's why we can't see it from the helicopter pictures that we were showing you there. But this here is an official photo that was tweeted out, and that is where that vintage plane is now submerged under the river. You can see rescue boats there as well. This all happened around 7:30 Eastern time in the Hudson River, which separates New Jersey and New York coastlines. It's also a very heavy traveled highway area in New York and New Jersey. For the New York area, it's known as the Henry Hudson Parkway. Locals call it the West Side Highway. It's a very, very busy highway which leads you down the west side of the island. And right now we are told that there are closures on that highway around 79th Street because of the rescue personnel that has all descended there onto the scene. Now, clearly, the plane is submerged underwater. We have no reports of how many people were on that plane, whether or not anyone has been rescued. And I'm just reading some new information here that I'm getting over my phone, if you pardon me 1 second. No new updates from the FAA or the Coast Guard. There is no official word on anyone that has been rescued from this plane or how many people were on board. So this is a very fluid situation here in New York City, the New York City area, which is also celebrating Fleet Week as we enter the Memorial Day weekend. This is one of the reasons why maybe this vintage World War II plane may have been in the area. There are many, many activities happening here over the weekend, including an air show for the Memorial Day weekend. It's a yearly celebration where the Blue Angels come in and lots of vintage aircraft come in. That may be one of the reasons why this plane was arriving here into the area. This is a very busy airspace, and there's many helicopter tours. Small planes are usually not allowed in this area. After 9/11, there was a lot of restricted airspace here in New York City. Now, I do see some divers in the water here from these pictures that we were just showing there. I did see some divers in the water, and I could not see whether or not if they had another person with them. But we do see divers in the water there to the left of your screen, where the boats have all gathered in this area where that vintage World War II plane is now submerged. Let's listen in to the reporter speaking from the chopper. Once again, this is Joe Bierman.
Helicopters doing searches, but again, a P-46 Thunderbolt vintage airplane reportedly crashed in the Hudson River on the Jersey side in West New York around 7:30. Back to you.
All right, so technically, this is considered West New York, which is on the Jersey side of the Hudson River.
Any signs of that airplane crash in the river? But again, a P-46 is a single passenger aircraft, vintage World War II. We're told from the FAA website that it is described as only a single passenger airplane, which would be just the pilot. But from what I understand, there were numerous 911 calls around 7:30 reporting the crash.
All right, you're hearing some other audio there from some of the technical people at home base. From some of the technical people at home base keying into the helicopter reporter there. But we did hear from the New Jersey State Police now that sent out a tweet just moments ago that the plane went down near 79th Street, Pier 1. They are reporting that there was one survivor in the water. New Jersey State Police helicopter and boats there are on the scene. There are two New Jersey State Police divers in the water looking for possible additional survivors. However, we did hear from Joe Bierman, who is a helicopter reporter that we've been listening into and who is in the air right now over the scene, that this particular World War II vintage plane, the P-47 Thunderbolt aircraft, is only a single passenger plane. Once again, it is a single passenger plane, which then would tell us that it was just the pilot that was on that vintage aircraft.
Robbie, you there?
The circumstances as to why it went down, why exactly it was in this area, we still do not have confirmed. Right now, what the priority is to find the pilot and also to maintain contact and to maintain the eyesight on this vintage plane that went down. You can see that there's boats, rescue boats from various law enforcement agencies in the Hudson River right now, right around 79th Street, the 79th Street Pier. And you can see that they've somewhat formed sort of a circle. You can see a circumference area. In the middle of that area is likely where that vintage plane is now submerged under the river. We saw a tweet out earlier from one of the New York City officials that showed a still frame and a photo with an arrow, a red arrow on it, that was indicating where they believe that vintage plane is down. You can't see it from the picture, but it clearly demonstrates the area where it is. Now, the weather here in New York is certainly warm, but that water temperature is definitely still cold. At last check, I don't believe, last time I talked to one of our local meteorologists here in New York City, the water temperature in the ocean was not above 60 degrees. So certainly you definitely want to get the pilot that was on that plane out of that water as quickly as possible. We did see some divers earlier on some video that we showed earlier. I'm not sure when it was taken, if it was the live pictures that were beaming in or if it was from tape earlier, but we did see divers that I believe were from the New Jersey State Police, since they said they had divers in the water. I could not tell whether if they had anyone with them as far as who may have been the pilot. So once again, if you're just joining us here, this is breaking news happening on the Hudson River, on the Jersey side of the Hudson River. A small vintage World War II plane went down around 79th Street. 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and this is the exact same area where the U.S. Airways flight also went down in the Hudson River after hitting some birds after takeoff here at one of our local airports. That happened on January 15th of 2009. U.S. Airways flight 1549 being piloted by Captain Chesley Sully Sullenberger. So for people here in the New York City area, this is a reminder of what happened. We know the reasons why that U.S. Airways flight went down in the Hudson River, but we do not know the reason why this vintage aircraft went down. Some possible reasons as to why it was in the area, in the New York City airspace area, is because it is Fleet Week here in the city. That is when a lot of military personnel, Navy, some Marines, Coast Guard, all descend onto New York City. Many of them bring in their ships that they live on when they're out serving our country, and it's somewhat of a show and tell. It's a very celebratory time here in the city, welcoming all of these U.S. military personnel to the city, and it's quite a sight to see. But along with that are a lot of celebrations, and many planes come in. They have an air show at Jones Beach, which is an annual tradition as well. And that is all to celebrate the Memorial Day weekend. I can hear Joe speaking once again. Let's go ahead. I'm going to stop talking to see what he's saying.
As you can see, numerous police boats still on the scene searching for that airplane. It is on the New Jersey side, just north of the Lincoln Tunnel. The FAA advises only the pilot would have been on board. In Chopper 2, Joe Bierman, CBS 2 News.
All right, so Joe is repeating the same information that we've had, and that is that right now, the FAA is reporting that there was only the pilot on board that plane. According to Joe Bierman, it is a single passenger plane, and there is one survivor. There was a report of one survivor in the water. That is according to New Jersey State Police. They also confirmed that that plane went down near 79th Street and that they did send helicopters and boats to the scene. Also that 2 of their divers are in the water searching for possible additional survivors. There is no indication that there were any other additional people on that plane, since it is only a single passenger aircraft, World War II vintage P-47 Thunderbolt aircraft. But you can see that it is a very active, very fluid scene. Right now, I'm sure that they just want to make sure that they remain in contact with the location of that plane, and also to get emergency help to the pilot. We do not know whether if that pilot has been rescued. All I can tell you is that I did see some divers in the water. I do not see them now. That may be an indication that that pilot of that vintage plane was rescued, but we do not have that confirmed. Darkness is setting in to the city now. They did have some advantage at 7:30 to have daylight still. We still have a late sunset here now that we're getting closer to the summer hours, and you can see the glow of the emergency lights from those NYPD boats and also the Port Authority boats. You can see them glowing there from the Hudson River. Let's listen to Joe again.
Have arrived on the New Jersey side of the Hudson River in West New York. We're just north of the Lincoln Tunnel. Now this search is going to get much more difficult as the sun has gone down. As we look to the west, no signs of the sun anymore. You can see we're starting to lose daylight. Now there are divers in the Hudson River. They have been down there looking for the pilot. We understand it was a P-46 Thunderbolt airplane, which is a vintage World War II type plane. Still dozens and dozens of emergency equipment on the New Jersey side as well as the New York side. On the New York side, they're all staging at the 79th Street boat basin. You can see all the lights over there to the right side of your screen, but no signs yet for the pilot or the airplane that is completely submerged. Back to you.
All right, so from Joe Bierman there, who is a reporter that is in our chopper operated by our affiliate here in New York City, WCBS, he is reporting that divers are still in the water looking for the pilot. He also noted, like I did, that darkness is starting to set in, which does not help matters when you are searching for a plane that is submerged under the water, and also for possible survivors. Every possible department that can be alerted and that can respond to help in a situation like this is now on scene, and they will continue to be there until the situation is under control.